how I went about deciding what my major would be. My name is Ruben Steven. I'm a sophomore at MIT studying mechanical engineering and computer science. And essentially, the idea behind this video is I'm going through and answering questions that I've gotten in my Instagram DMs about what they should do in terms of degree and like career path. Before I say anything else, I'm just a dude who happens to go to college. Take any opinion I give with a grain of salt and or go get multiple different opinions and then make your decision based off what you feel is most resonant with you. But that being said, right? Hey Ruben, I've been watching a lot of your stuff, whether it's about philosophy and life or academia, and I really enjoy it. Appreciate you, gang. As a senior in high school about to graduate, I was looking for some advice. As graduation approaches, I've been thinking a lot about what I want to do, my goals, my dreams, how I'm going to achieve them, and why I'm here, things of that nature. And as someone in college, I was hoping for some advice. Similar to you, I have an interest in entrepreneurship. In my heart, that's where you can be the most creative, have the most control, but that's also where the money is. The risk is rewarded. Whether that's just through recurring revenue or maybe an IPO if it was ever that large, but that's not really a degree. I have interest in business, but in my head, that's more of like Excel, office, banking, finance, and that culture. It kind of had the stigma that this is where people go when they don't know or don't care, and it leads to it leads to majorly typical office jobs and sometimes maybe a nice VC or quant job, but that's more rare and specialized. I also have interest in tech, not really coding. I tried to learn, but it wasn't really my forte. But I do like problem solving, and math isn't my love necessarily, but it is something that I am okay at, so engineering seems promising. So I guess I am kind of stuck. Would you have any advice for navigating this decision, or any insight you could give me? I've thought about programs with minors in entrepreneurship with majors in engineering and or having an engineering degree and job to raise capital for entrepreneurial ventures. Additionally, one last thing to consider is that I don't necessarily know how to add value to the world for ventures without a specialized degree and whatnot. So, and then the second question was, hey, I was wondering something. Do you recommend dual degrees? I was thinking about mechanical and electrical because I want the freedom to create anything. Thanks. That's really cool. They're both really cool. So, okay, let's go one question at a time. Would you have any advice for navigating this decision, specifically the decision between like which major to go into? Okay, this is a big one. First things first, like zooming out. There's two books that I've been reading recently. One is Explosive Self-Esteem by Nathaniel Branden. The reason why I would recommend this is because it has a exercise like in the first-ish chapter. It's the pillar of living consciously, right? And within there, like basically like the overall exercise that is characteristic of this book is the thought completion journaling exercises where you like write a sentence stem like living consciously to me means, and then you like word vomit on paper about like what comes to your head. Definitely recommend reading the book. I think it's been very like fundamental and like helpful for me in terms of like not figuring out who I am because I don't have that answer complete yet, but it's helped me, I guess, to get closer to an answer, right? And the reason for that is essentially it requires you, or like the exercises lead you to do a lot of self-reflection and overall like living more consciously, because by doing so you'll get a better sense of what you do and don't like. Another book that I've also been reading recently that I would also recommend in terms of like getting better attuned with like what path it is you'd like to chart out for yourself is Designing Your Life by Bill Burnett and Steve something. Dave Evans, I'm sorry. By Bill Burnett and Dave Evans, Designing Your Life, right? So first things first, I was just reading these two books because again, regardless of anything else I say, I am one person. I have my biases because I come from where I come from and like the things that I'm oriented towards. So I'm going to give you an answer that very much sounds like Ruben Steven. Not, I'm not going to dox the name, but not insert your name, right? Like, and I could give you an answer. F what I gotta say. What do you care about? Like, what do you want to do? That's like that should be your north star always. Because at the end of the day, I don't have to live the life that you decide to go create. You do. Yeah, I keep putting a bunch of disclaimers and PSAs because I don't want to be like telling anybody what they should or should not do with their life. But I can give an insight on terms of like how I went about making this decision. Yeah, so in terms of like what is Ruben Steven voice slash like what are the biases that I'm going to be answering this with, I was particularly motivated to go into entrepreneurship due to like he mentioned, I think yeah, where the money is, right? Because I come from a particularly like low income background, and as a result, one of my like highest order motivations has been to fix that scenario for myself or myself and my family, right? Like getting an egregious amount of money, and the way it is that I've seen to do that, like the reason why I went into engineering at first was because like another piece of caveat is I'm of Haitian American descent. And so like if you have immigrant parents, I don't know, you probably have the same sort of like, okay, your three options are lawyer, doctor, engineer, type beat, you feel me? And it's like I wasn't really trying to do law school and or medical school because of the like time requirement that goes into those like graduate degrees, you feel me? And it's like I can get my bachelor's in engineering and then essentially enter into industry like right after. And that was what had motivated my decision. That's why I'm like, even now as I seem to lean more towards like the entrepreneurial route, I still want to get my engineering degree because it's going to help me become tangibly skilled, right? And so how to navigate this decision. It might be worth me going further into detail about my current plans and like how I'm like looking at it now, because I do have the option to still change my major, and like it's occurred to me like, oh, what if I just go into quant if like money is really, if you're after money, like investment banking and or VC and or quantitative analysis is very lucrative, right? But I don't really particularly want to go to those because it doesn't resonate fully with my higher order objective, which is the freedom and ability to create without bounds. Like engineering gives me the ability to create within the physical realm, right? Like I can see and solve problems the way an engineer would, and I think that skill is particularly valuable. And in addition to that, how does that relate to like my entrepreneurial ventures? I see it as I'm going to develop this like very hard, tangible, like high barrier to entry skill, so that even if I like mess up or like do something goofy in terms of like the business or like entrepreneur space, I always have a backdrop of, I can still engineer something. Best believe, gang. Like I'm still like an MIT educated engineer, so like I'll always have that base level of skill of like worst case scenario I can get a job for 100K a year, right? So that's one thing. So it is like that security blanket for me, so that I can have. I think he mentioned that too, like having an engineering degree and job to raise capital for entrepreneurial ventures. So I guess like my fault. I'm kind of waffling around the question. Quick answer is I would say do that, like because that's the reason why I'm saying that is because that's what I've done, right? And don't take that as like, oh, gospel, go do it immediately. Like no, take the time to consider if that's really what you want to do, right? With and it seems like there's some sort of like actual desire and like interest in like engineering, but best believe, bro, that is a hard. I'm currently walking it. It is, man, shitting on serious, man. Like engineering is not for the faint of heart, and like you have to have a motivating. You have to have a strong enough why to push you through. And my strong enough why is I do desire. I to a great degree I desire mastery over the natural world. Like that's what started it for me. Like I always loved physics and like knowing why things work, so that I could that is very important, I believe, too. It's why I wouldn't just go into physics. Like knowing why isn't enough for me. It's why such that or so that I can apply it to something else. Answer his question. You keep waffling. Would you have any advice for navigating this decision? So overall, my like highest order advice is to listen to yourself and like what it is that is calling to you, or like through experience, right? Listen to yourself, go get a wide variety of experience and like opinions from people who are living in those different like career paths that you mentioned. So like navigating this decision, get real life testimonies slash insights on what the experience would be like if you were to go down that path. So like go speak to somebody who works in VC, go speak to someone who's working in quant, go speak to a career engineer, see what they say, see what sounds like, oh, I don't really want to live that life. Like don't really want to go into the office every day, such and such, right? And then that's why I had recommended these tools, because they're also like helpful for like finding out exactly like they're helpful to the higher order objective of listening to yourself. Designing your life, mind you, I'm not fully like I think I'm like a quarter of the way through the book, not very far. So I have less like conviction when I recommend this because I'm not done. But I would it's a bit more like tactical in terms of like do this, like here's how you like scaffold and like design your life, versus this is just like here's how you get more in tune with numero uno. I thought about progressive entrepreneurship, or any insight you could give me. Yeah, in terms of insight, I could really just give you. Yeah, the most insight I can give is into my personal experience, right? So, like, as an engineering student, what is my current day to day life looking like? Pretty busy. I'm not gonna lie, especially considering like I'm trying to do entrepreneurship slash like the media stuff in tandem with like the engineering degree. It's kind of like hectic, and it's like my bandwidth is particularly low. But again, like having a strong enough why, I would say overall that it's worth it to me because I see the light at the end of the tunnel because I'm trying to create it myself. Even this one's going to be really hard to answer. How to add value to the world? Because bro, I barely have an answer myself. I would say, no, heuristic though. Do something that you would do for yourself and then share it. I think is the most useful. Like this page, bro. This entire page is me yapping to myself from like 2 years ago, or maybe like 2 to 3 years ago, whatever you want to call it. Like, what would be helpful for me back then? Hey, bro, realize that bread isn't all that important, at least for me. Like, I think the thesis of this video that money can't unlame you, but I stand by that heavy, and it's like I think I don't know, if you would have caught me in high school, like the reason why I'm like, oh, I'll just do engineering is because like the bread or whatever. But then I got here, got to MIT, and again, very personal to myself and like my set of biases and like the circumstances I grew up in, but I don't feel the most at home or like welcome within MIT spaces because of the fact that keeping it a beansky, bro, I'm a broke black nigga from South Florida and like these niggas are fucking like whitewashed as hell, keeping it a beansky, right? And it's like there's no like no hate, you feel me? Like I appreciate and respect the fact that they are very much like academically oriented and very much want that top office job or want that top engineering job and like want to solve the hard problem. But me personally, forget all that. I'm here for the skill and the bread that it provided me, you feel me? So that I can fix my family. And as a result, like it makes me chafe. And there's been points where I thought about dropping the hell out. I'm not gonna lie to you because I'm like, I don't really like, whew, you know. And again, right, this might not necessarily apply to you. You might get here and be like, this is an oasis. This is heaven on earth. But at least for me, it's not necessarily that. And the engineering community, I don't know if this is like every like professional environment I would go to, but it's like the vibe I get here is very much like nose down, grind it out. We just want to solve the hardest problem. That makes my soul die a little bit inside. So no, and that's why like same thing with quant. Quant seems like the same thing, but even worse to me because at least with engineering, there's the like redeeming quality of like, oh, at least I'm making cool stuff. Quant seems like, okay, I'm just moving, like I'm making cool stuff and to a degree adding value to the world through like convenience of technology. You know, like if I engineer like a bridge, like that's civil engineering, I probably wouldn't be doing that. Or for example, like I'm in computer science and engineering, I'm in a combined major. Oh, I think that goes into what he was saying. Do I recommend dual degrees? If you believe that you'll have enough time for it, and if you see it's strong enough, like if you have places to put both of those degrees. Because if not, I'm gonna be honest, I would recommend mechanical engineering because you can work wherever. Honestly, probably like a minor. Again, very, very, very much biased because I am a mechanical engineering student, right? And it's just like, what do I care about more? I care more about the physical stuff, and like I'm really interested in mechatronics and like the robotics aspect more so than I am about like circuit design. You feel me? And like that's what you would be doing more so as an electrical engineer. But overall, would I recommend dual degrees? Not. Yeah, like I would say like I would err on the side of no, just because that's a whole lot of work, bro. Mechanical engineering by itself is a doozy. Electrical engineering by itself is a doozy. Doing them both is you're gonna be clapped by that work. I'm not gonna lie to you, gang. Unless you're just cracked, right? So like there's a couple different things you gotta like account for into the equation, right? So what I think what might be better is if I gave like a list of things to consider before you make that decision. If you're going to go between mechanical and like doing a dual degree, right? So first thing I would say to consider is bandwidth, right? Like they're going to be very time intensive to be doing a dual degree in two STEM like heavy fields. You feel me? Two is your personal ability and like affinity for math and science and like physics concepts because that's going to adjust how much time it's going to require because like if you're not like if you're not that great at math, it's going to be a harder learning curve than if you're like I don't know freaking like math Olympiad triple gold medalist. You feel me? Like okay, you're probably gonna be more okay. Third thing is in terms of doing a dual degree, yeah, like job market and placement. Like where do you want to work? What is the requirement for that? I this is another like philosophy like way I make decisions is I would call myself a subscriber to the belief system of essentialism of like essentialism and more specifically the Pareto's principle of like okay which 20% or less of actions are required to get me 80% or more of the results that I'm after, right? And so I don't know specifically what this person is looking to do long term or like what problem they want to work on or like what spaces they want to be in. But I would say to get that clearly defined, like say you, okay, right. Again, I can only speak from my personal experience. So for me personally, my name is Ruben Steven. I'm looking to work in AI robotics specifically. And so like that mechatronics area and combining the mechanical with the artificial intelligence slash like computer science side. And so for me, I'm okay. What would I like? What was the ideal situation for myself? CEO slash founder of an AI robotics company that is specifically targeted at. Should I just give up my whole idea? You can have the idea. It's about who implements it, bro. You're not original. But AI robotics specifically targeted at the growing elderly population because all the boomers are about to get old, and essentially the idea is to turn it into like Tesla for a personal bot. So like I'm gonna need that subscription game because then it allows me. So this is like me, like I guess analyzing it from my business perspective. That is a growing market of like elderly people, and it's like a renewing market. Like there's always going to be new people getting old and needing more assistance than just like maybe your kids don't have time or like want to come. That's also an issue of like want to become your primary caretaker. In addition, like there's okay, right. I don't want to just turn this into like my whole business plan, but there seems to be a growing need for this, as well as like a significant enough pain point such that this would be a lucrative opportunity for myself, right? And so, in order to do that, I don't necessarily need to be technically skilled. Like I could just go from the pure business side and like find a technical co-founder to be my CTO while I am CEO, because I don't know, I feel like in terms of like pure passion, I might lean a bit more towards like that systematic and entrepreneurial thinking. However, the reason why I'm like thugging it out still is because like I see like what am I trying to craft for myself? I want to be not a jack of all trades, but like a combo guard, bro. Like I go two ways. Like I can want like the place I see for myself is somebody who can operate both on the technical side to maybe not A player, because I'm not full. It's hard to reach like A tier in any given skill if you're not all in, and so like probably not A tier, but like at least B tier of like world engineers, right? And that's why I'm like at MIT, so I can get that like world class education within the technical field, and then combine that with the business acumen that I'm trying to build up from doing these like digital products and all that good stuff on like this media side, such that I can be my own CT. It wouldn't, yeah, like long term I'm probably not going to do both just because that's an inefficient like separation of tasks. Like it would make more sense to delegate to somebody who is an A player at that field. But having the background in like I am an MIT mechanical engineer, one, as like if I'm raising seed funding, you're gonna want to give me more money than if I'm just like, hey, I'm random Joe Schmo trying to get bread for this thing. It's like there's a level of credibility and I guess like glaze that comes along with like the name and branding that is this institution, and specifically being a mechanical engineer, because it's like you look at that as like, yeah, that makes sense. MIT nigga doing robots, that makes sense. I'll invest in that, right? And that's what I'm thinking about, right? So I'm trying to develop this skill set so that it can complement the businesses that I'm trying to go into. And so again, it would depend a bit on like I'm kind of switching between this question and this question. I apologize, but how would you go about navigating this decision? I think I mentioned listen to yourself a lot. Uh, Something else, I keep messing up the numbers, but in addition to that, like I would want to add the caveat of in addition, like listen to yourself and try to get clear on what the target is, and then work backwards from there. So going back to that Pareto's principle and like that's oh yeah, so like okay, I want to do AI robotics as a CEO slash founder, right? So it's like okay, working backwards from that, the mechanical engineering degree makes a lot of sense. And since I want to like since AI is a growing market slash like technological revolution, whatever you want to call it, right? It just made sense because like it made sense for me to add that into my degree, because when I first came here, like I was just going to be pure mechanical engineering, and then I'm like, huh, one, there's bread in knowing how to code. At least there was. I don't know. Like software dev might be patched as a career path. Maybe I don't know. But that was essentially like how I went about deciding what my major would be. I looked at where it is I would like to be in the future, slash which position I would like to be in, which is for me being CEO slash founder of an AI robotics company. And then I worked backwards to okay, what tangible skill set would I need to acquire in order to make that like more feasible for myself? And the answer to that question was mechanical engineering and computer science, or mechanical like not it is and but it's I'm in a combined major, not a dual major, because of the other considerations I was mentioning earlier of like bandwidth and like personal ability and like like are you going to have the time and like energy and like will to live if you're doing 2 degrees that are very like intensive and academically rigorous at the same time? Okay, I think I've sufficiently answered this question. I want to create freedom to create anything. I believe that you can do so without necessarily doing a dual degree, but if that's your heart intent, if that is your heart's desire, and you have the required skill set to do so, and or like time and patience to develop the skill set to do so, then go for it. Go crazy. Okay, now I need to make sure I actually sufficiently answered this question. Would you have any advice for navigating this decision or any insight you could give me? I believe I've given some. I've thought about programs with minors in entrepreneurship with majors in engineering, and or having an engineering degree and job to raise capital for entrepreneurial ventures. Additionally, one last thing to consider is that I don't necessarily know how to add value to the world for ventures without a specialized degree. So, initial thoughts is I would probably like not err on the side of caution, but like I would probably recommend doing something like that, like developing, like using college to develop that hard technical skill that has a high barrier to entry, and then applying that to combining that with a more soft skill, right? And like, yeah, I guess like speaking of philosophy and stuff, if I'm keeping it a whole beansky, I think getting a business major from college is kind of like an inefficient use of time. Slash, I don't want to say it's a waste because there is definitely like useful things you could learn in a business school or like in like taking business courses. However, at least from my perspective, it doesn't make as much sense because of that, because of the fact that that information is freely available on the internet. Like realistically, like what are they going to tell you in an MBA that you can't get from like a book or two? Especially like it doesn't seem like there's a lot. You feel me? And in addition to that, the majority of like the barrier between winners and losers in business is like the action that you take as opposed to the information that you know, right? So like you can know the principles of business all you want, but if you never actually take the leap to like start a venture and get paying customers, then who gives two shits? You feel me? Like like it's like the what is it, like Monday morning quarterbacks. It's like, okay, you're talking all this extra, but if you can't actually do the job or like walk the walk of like, oh nah, Brady's trash, like nigga shut up, or you trash too. Like you're not actually participating. You feel me? And like I don't know, I feel like business school is somewhat like self masturbatory in that sense of like, okay, you'll go through all these case studies, but like nigga go do it. You know what I mean? And so like and specifically in college, since you're going to be paying this like ridiculous amount of tuition, I also think of it from the perspective of like this is an investment you're making, right? Like this is, I mentioned it a little bit at the beginning of the video, but like this is a financial decision at the end of the day. Like you're trying to you're essentially making the investment or the bet that if I put like 100K or however much your college tuition winds up costing into getting this degree, that is going to net me as much, if not more. Wait, no. It definitely should be getting you back more in terms of return on investment. You feel me? And so I just don't think that getting a business degree has that, especially compared to like if you're trying to develop the skill and like have it be tangibly applied, you could definitely do it faster and more efficiently with the internet, especially now considering the fact that you have like these tools like ChatGPT and Claude and all that other things to just like get a working prototype, go fail, and then you'll learn way more from like getting in the game and like getting your teeth busted for a little bit than sitting on the sidelines trying to do scout like do film study the entire time, you know? Okay, I apologize. This is not the most like elegantly structured or whatever you want to call it, but I have an interest in tech, not really coding. I tried to learn, but it really wasn't my forte. But I do like problem solving, and math isn't my love necessarily, but it is something I'm okay at. So engineering seems promising. So I guess I'm kind of stuck. There's also other options you can consider within that space. Like maybe it's not necessarily like a software developer, but if you have an interest in math and like problem solving, you could do like consulting and do like, yeah, quantitative analysis, go crazy. But with quantitative analysis, again, that same sort of caveats I was mentioning as in my response to this question of like, just know that it's going to come with a lot of sleepless nights. And like even when you get into industry within quantitative analysis, like my impression of it from like the interviews I've done and or people I've spoken to is that like, bro, it's like darn near sleeping under your desk, like crazy, like 80-hour weeks plus type beat. And at least for me, that doesn't seem like the correct amount of work life balance. And so I'm so good on that. I do not need it enough. In addition to that, I think you mentioned it a bit more, but like there's like a quant bro slash finance bro culture that me personally as a black dude, I'm gonna be honest, I don't really think I want to be in that space. Like it seems a bit like corny. I'm not gonna lie, and that's not to say that I'm like the coolest nigga ever or whatever. But like I've had my fair share of being around overly and predominantly white spaces. I'm gonna be honest. Like I would like somewhere that I can more readily and like easily be my natural personality. And that's not just quant. I'm not gonna lie. Like that's also a reason why I am not particularly keen on the idea of becoming a career engineer. Like I'm, like the idea is to develop this like hard tangible skill set so that you can never take it away from me that I can engineer some shit. But then like I don't see myself working at like I don't know. I'm not going to name any companies because, but I don't see myself working as like a CAD monkey for like the next 30 years of my life. That would be a failure in my eyes. Not to say that like if you do so that like you are a failure. It's just for myself and like what ambitions I have. It feels like if I do that, that means I gave up on my dreams. But yeah. Um. So yeah, man. I think I might be getting a bit redundant and talking in circles, but in terms of like how to navigate this decision, I would once again like direct you to look inwards. Look inwards while getting additional information from people that would be in those different perspective paths that you're considering. Like, okay, go see what VC person and or quant person and or engineer person has to say, incorporate that into the reflections that you're doing, and then make an educated decision on like, okay, do I really want what this like career path comes with? You feel me? Yeah. I hope that helps. I'm sorry. But yeah, catch on in the next one.